go at ease. We're waiting for one member to arrive. I'll briefly go over the details for how this is going to work today, just so we can get that out of the way, and then we'll get started when we get the other representative here. And so basically, thank you all for being here and seeing Representative Posthumus. Looks like Representative Bierlein makes a motion to elevate Representative Posthumus, given Vice Chair Green's absence. Seeing no objection, the motion passes. All right, perfect. All right, thank you all for being here today. We will be giving public testimony on data centers. 2 minutes per person. Well, we do have a list. There are 10 people in the room right now signed up to testify, and there's the overflow room. So what we're going to do is once the 10 people are done, we ask that you 10 leave at the same time, and then another wave of 10 will come in, and we'll just keep doing that on repeat. The button should be lit up in red already when you sit down, so you won't have to touch that button unless it's not lit up red, so you should be good to go to just start testifying right when you sit down. We'll do that as quickly as possible to get through as many people as we can today. We will be here until 1:30, so typically committee gets done at noon, but we're extending an hour and a half. Committee members will have other things to do, so please understand if committee members leave at noon. They have other things to do. Some may stay, some may not. Depends on their schedule. So with that, the last thing I want to say is we will have 2 folders here. When you have 30 seconds left, we'll raise up the yellow folder to let you know you have 30 seconds left. When you have 15 seconds left, we'll have a red folder shown, and then the alarm will go off at 2 minutes so that we get through as many people as possible. And with that, please keep your speaking to the merits of data centers, and don't say anything about campaigning. We're not talking about outside campaign efforts today. This is about the merits of data centers. That is the request. And with that, we will start off with our first person testifying, which is Nicole Kiway Piper.
Just before I send people in, I want to call off names who are going to be the next group. So if I call your name, just recognize that, and then when I call for the next group, then you'll be a part of that group. So do we have Paula Kaltrider?
All right.
Okay, so you'd be in the next group when I call for the next group.
Good morning, happy Earth Day.
Once they reach the 9th person here, so
particularly as profit-driven, deep-pocketed
once they reach the 9th testifier, so
AI data center buildouts are, as we speak, ballooning to inundate the public with the best PR propaganda their piles of money can buy, and it will be a lot. So over the course of this few weeks, I heard a few things I wanted to address. So a few times we've heard, we'll make sure the process is adhered to. First of all, the process that we're talking about often began with secretive meetings, convened months prior to industrial development plans being sprung up on local residents, but also processes that are already stacked in favor of polluters for profit, to the point that the EPA now vocally states that the priority is to energy environmental protection. Her talk about let the free market decide. Yeah, we are not given the option to freely opt into AI, but rather is incredibly difficult to opt out. Leave it to local control. Yet hours of citizen testimony in opposition too often results in NDA industry, local elected mayors and councils doing the bidding of big tech. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention greenwashing. Closed loop systems means the poison goes elsewhere while the energy and water burden is still as considerable, sometimes more. In Lansing, fuel cell technologies asks us just to ignore the life cycle emissions and give us time to bribe off politicians to just say it's clean energy. So, we should be beginning to rehabilitate lands that have been disrespected by centuries of profit-chasing pollution, and with CBAs, warning against them, because people aren't looking for benevolent corporate overlords or tech saviors. We're looking for responsible governance that stewards the people's pooled money in a manner that doesn't require splashy gambles with private entities waving money and promises, but instead prioritizes the health, creativity, and vision of people already in the community, and looking to leave a living legacy to future generations that can heal the land and waters and wildlife and provide food.
Very good. Thank you, Nicole. Next up, we have Representative Jen Wertz.
Josh Bogus.
Right here. Thank you, Chair. While I sit here today as an elected official, I also want you to know I am a lifelong Michigan
Greg
resident.
Krupa.
My husband and I chose to stay in Michigan to raise our children here and to start a small egg business here. Over the past 5 years, we've seen a dramatic shift in our community. Branch County has always been predominantly agriculture and rural, and small businesses have mostly
Russ
focused
Bellet.
on agriculture. Then in 2021, federal and state governments started offering tax incentives for green energy. And in 2023, Michigan passed the green energy mandate. Now, over 5,000 acres in Branch County sits covered with solar panels that were once productive farm
Lynn
crops were
Slight.
raised. In fact, in the past 20 years, over 30,000 acres have been lost to production farm ground in my county alone. That's over 12% of the land. I know
Molly
we're
Hart.
not here to talk about solar or green energy mandates, but it's important to understand that data centers will only drive more of a loss of farm ground in rural communities across Michigan. For data centers to receive the tax credits being offered in the state, 90% of their electricity must come from renewable sources, AKA more solar panels, wind turbines, or battery storage
Jerry
facilities
Parker.
for communities like mine. That is
Okay,
why
so
in
this
March
will be
I
the
introduced
first group,
Data
so once you're on the
Center
ninth
Regulations
person,
Act.
I'll let
This
y'all
act
know
will
that it's time to
prohibit
go,
new
and
data
then
centers
you just follow my
until
lead.
April 1st of 2027. This will allow for townships and the new legislature and governor that will be elected in November
I'm probably
time to
more to you
create
than
better
that.
guardrails for
Your
data
names.
centers in Michigan.
Where do you go in? So
A few months
pretty
ago, a
much the same
Michigan
order I
judge
go.
ruled that the residents of Saline Township could not intervene in the construction of a data center in their township. The proposed data center in Saline will occupy 250 acres. A facility that size can only be built where large amounts of land, water, and power are available. This facility would use 1,400 megawatts of electricity. That's equal to the same amount of power needed for 1 million homes, or equivalent of the city of Detroit. As all of you have seen in this committee, the state has invested in countless developments promising jobs and large revenue that never comes. Meanwhile, lifelong landowners gain nothing for staying here. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Wards. I don't believe, is Karen Sikulski showed up? I don't believe Karen is here, so we are going to move on to Betsy Lopez Wagner.
Go, Betsy.
Excellent. Hello and good morning. Representative Carr, my name is Betsy Lopez Wagner, and I live in Lowell, Michigan. I'm grateful to be offering testimony this Earth Day. I'm doing so on behalf of Residents United for a Healthy Lowell. We're a grassroots volunteer-led community group that is working together in care and concern for the health of our community, our local environment, our natural resources, and the sustainable energy future of our community and those communities throughout the Great Lakes region. I'm a science communicator and an environmental justice advocate, the mother of an extraordinary Cree team dedicated to entomology and the natural world, and a small business agency owner who's perpetually volunteering for good. I want to be clear today with all of you. Lowell and communities like ours are saying yes to Michigan and no to big tech and corporate handouts. I wake up to the sound of roosters crowing, robins chirping, and ducks gallivanting in puddles across my front yard on our small farmstead. Those who live and frequent our community, which spans Lowell, Little Charter Township, Virginia Township, and West Michigan, remain enchanted by the Flat and the Grand Rivers, the kayaking, the fishing, and the farming. Gorgeous night skies and miles of trails are ours in our rural aesthetic, and the people who call this community, only 15 miles east of Grand Rapids home, do not want to see an AI data center, nor do we want these in our region. According to a recent report from Data Center Watch, there have been $65 billion of data center projects that have been blocked by communities and have become organized in ways beyond measure. Many of those communities are here in this room today, and I'm grateful for them, and we stand in solidarity. We're facing a proposed Microsoft hyperscale data center at Covenant Business Park on a 237-acre parcel, which includes wetlands and neighbors' homes. It's at the corridor of our community, and we've been organizing since we heard about this in mid-November. While actively working to secure our data center moratorium, we do need to note that this project, which is what the Right Place calls Project Birch, is supported through a $17 million SSRP grant administered through TRP, the same type of grant which has been plaguing Marshall, Mundy, and other communities. This $17 million grant was one of the last SSRP grants distributed by the NEDC before legislators pulled all SOAR funding. Again, we're here to raise the consciousness, raise the awareness, and we're looking to you all to be able to support us. Recognizing the increasing interest in AI data center development in Michigan and across our region. Again, we're looking to see that there are moratoriums that are adopted. We're looking to ensure that state level folks like yourselves are considering the public health and safety of residents and ecosystems alike in Michigan and in our region. And never before have we seen so many communities standing up and banding together in this way. We come across political ideologies, we come across different diversities, and we're here really together to ensure that folks remember we are not the opposition, we are the baseline. We are the souls of our communities and we are resistance because we have everything to lose and nothing of moral substance to gain from big tech and their AI missions. Thank you for your time and looking forward to working with all of you.
Thank you, Betsy. Next up, we have Amanda Phillips.
My name is Amanda Faulkner, and I am a public school teacher of 21 years. An aspect that I do not hear people talking about is cognitive atrophy, the reduction in active thinking. The continuous and long-term exposure to double the normal ambient noise level from hyperscale data centers impairs cognitive functioning, especially in children and adolescents. This weakens neural connectivity, working memory, long-term memory, and analytical skills. Adults are experiencing decreased capacity for active thinking. Our children may not be building any of these skills at all. This is foreclosure and it may not be reversible. Young people are not developing the auditing skills necessary to engage in critical thinking and analysis. They are not developing the neural pathways for evaluating evidence and constructing arguments. Protecting the space our children need to develop the foundational skills of thinking is now a non-negotiable. Overuse of AI is literally changing how brains are forming the neurological pathways. If we are to utilize AI without long-term damaging effects to our cognitive ability, we must do so responsibly. Young people do not have the fully developed frontal cortex capacity to do this, especially without learning the critical thinking and decision-making skills associated with this task. Responsibility is the key word. I'm sure that we can all agree that technology is not going away. However, we have to create and utilize technology responsibly. We have to be responsible stewards of our environment and our planet as a whole. We also have to be responsible to our bodies, minds, and identities. So how does all of this connect to what the other speakers are saying? The only reason there are data centers popping up everywhere the eye can see is because of the technology that we utilize on a daily basis. Every concern spoken of today revolves around the need for being proactive and protective of our lands, waters, minds, bodies, and identities. We do this through regulation. We must regulate all aspects of data center impacts: environmental, healthcare, including mental health and personal identity. We must also regulate AI to decrease the impacts it has on the physical health, cognitive development, and cognitive decline being experienced across all ages and all demographics. All Michiganders are counting on you to protect us from these devastating impacts. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Next up, we have Marjorie Steele.
Good morning. My name is Marjorie Steele. I am the founder and executive director of the Economic Development Responsibility Alliance of Michigan. I'm also a resident of Big Rapids. But first of all, I want to thank the committee for holding the hearing to hear public comment here today. I am myself a boomerang to Michigan. You know, I moved back to Michigan. I had the choice to live out of state, and I moved back here for the same reason which so many of my neighbors live here, which is that my family is here, and so is the land that I love. I did not move back here for a good job. I did not move back here to work at a factory job. I moved back here for the land and for my family. So as all of you are aware, you know, we incorporated in June of 2023 to battle initially these large mega sites, including battery plants, semiconductor plants, and so on and so forth, which were, you know, heavily subsidized with state taxpayer money. What we're seeing with these data centers is the next evolution of that heavy industrial taxpayer subsidized manufacturing process. We are seeing the same lack of transparency. We are seeing the same gross lack of due diligence. We are seeing the same, frankly, skullduggery and lack of bad faith from developers. And we are seeing the same abuse of taxpayer dollars via the tax break incentives that these data centers are taking advantage of. As a statewide grassroots, nonprofit, nonpartisan organization, what I want to speak to today is the consensus across Michiganders on these data centers. So we've clocked data center developments in over 30 communities in Michigan now. And I want to be clear, every single community that is facing a data center or a potential data center has organized local grassroots resistance. And when I say grassroots, I mean organically organized grassroots. This grassroots activity is taking place in rural agricultural communities, in industrialized communities, in commercial communities. It's happening in conservative communities, in progressive communities, across partisan lines, across the board. And it turns out that our energy rates, our water, and having clean land and air are unifying factors for Michiganders. These are the concerns that Michiganders have. And we have yet to see any proof from any industry experts or developers that the cost that these projects will bring to Michigan is in any way worth it. The benefit is simply not there. We ask legislators to seriously consider the statewide moratorium and to repeal those data center tax breaks. Thank you so much for your time.
Hello, representatives, Barry Wayne Adams, 612 West Green Street in Marshall. They are trying to put a data center down there, and the locals down there are very much opposed to it. We are getting the same sort of non-responsive reactions from the city council and the subordinate agencies that were involved in creating the legalistic mechanisms to try to bring this data center in. But, and very briefly, 2 minutes is not enough. It's not enough. And so, you know, you're going to be hearing all these people come up, try to fire hose information at you. Too much to be digested at once. But there is consensus across the state from everybody who is not financially interested in these data centers that they don't want. They operate, if you look as the thin biotic layer of life on this planet, as an organism, data centers will operate as cancer tumors. They will toxify the system. They will negatively affect people living near there, within 2 miles. You know, children there are going to have their nervous system development negatively impacted. We can't have these things in here. And then when you look at the end game of what these data centers are for, they are not for the benefit of the people of Michigan. They are for the benefit of Meta, Microsoft, Palantir, Oracle, and we've already found that the person, James Jarvis, who was trying to push this data center down in Marshall, has previous connection with Microsoft and Oracle, although they're trying to hide that behind the use of shell fronts to try to prevent us from knowing who the real string pullers are in these operations. Nobody across the state wants these. We don't want, to be frank, we don't want moratoria. We want data center funerals. And you're not going to be hearing anybody come up here. I will guess right now, you're not going to be hearing anybody come in here and say, we want data centers. We don't want to get rid of them. Thank you.
Very good, thank you, Barry. You did that in under 2 minutes. All right, and next up we have Rose Johnson.
Good morning, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Rose Johnson. I'm a lifelong Michigan resident. Before we commit our water, our land, and our tax dollars, we need to be sure we fully understand the long-term cost. Michigan's current review process evaluates water, power, and land use largely on a project-by-project basis. At this scale, these impacts are interconnected and should be evaluated as a collective demand on our resources, not on a project-by-project basis. We may not have a defined point of storage, but we know that water resources can be stressed locally and that cumulative demand is not fully evaluated today. I would ask that approvals require a cumulative impact analysis so we understand the total demand on the grid and the water resources before multiple projects move forward. Prior to approval, require long-term environmental impact studies. Approval should include clear limits on resource use and require any future expansion to undergo full independent review so incremental growth does not bypass proper scrutiny. Projects should cover their full infrastructure costs with no cost shifting to ratepayers or taxpayers, just as small businesses and homeowners do in our state currently. For environmental protection, there should be enforceable financial assurance such as a bond or remediation fund, so any future damages or cleanup is fully covered even if a shell company dissolves. Another important consideration is transparency. If public resources or incentives are involved, there should be clear disclosure of who the end user is and what the intended use of that facility will be. If we don't have clarity, we don't fully understand what we are being asked to support. Please ensure that NDAs are not allowed at any point during this process of these planning or projects. These corporations have the capacity to represent their own interests. It is the duty of elected and appointed officials to safeguard the public interest and ensure that the responsible stewardship of our natural resources. There should be no tax incentives for projects of this scale unless there's a clear measurable return to the community that bears the impact. What is the cost of returning fresh water to a town or an entire state? This is the question of long-term planning and stewardship. These decisions carry impacts that are permanent. Let's pause, ask for long-term impacts. Look to Virginia, Texas, and Oregon. When the consequences come, you won't be judged on what was promised. You will be judged on what you protected. Thank you.
Very good, thank you, Rose. Next up, we have Tammy Brunel.
Yeah, come on, let's go. Nice being in this room, isn't it?
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard. I'm a Saline Township resident. I'm here because a hyperscale data center is being built just a mile and a half from what was meant to be my family's forever home.
Tammy, keep it together.
A dream we've worked our entire adult life to achieve. My community, roughly 2,300 residents, mostly generational farm families, found itself standing alone against billion-dollar corporations and powerful political interests, without the money, lawyers, or influence we needed to defend ourselves. The odds were stacked against us. Decisions were already in motion before land was purchased, before the rezoning application was filed, and before residents were ever informed. Permits were ready and environmental protections were treated as an afterthought. After multiple special meetings, our board voted against rezoning, attempting to follow our master plan and residents' input. 2 days later, our township was sued by the billion-dollar corporate interest. Sorry, not opposed. 6 months from the start of the consent judgment, construction began, raising serious questions about the board's due diligence and preparedness. This was decided long before our vote board ever had an opportunity to vote. Michigan does not need to stop innovation, but we urgently need statewide action. I'm asking you to support the statewide moratorium on hyperscale data centers while the state conducts independent studies on the impact to our energy grid, water resources, farmland, and local infrastructure. Alongside that moratorium, we need clear siting standards, transparency before approvals, and real protections for local zoning ordinances. Just a couple of side notes. One, people need to understand that Relate Digital owns over 11,000 acres between my township and Bridgewater Township. They're planning to build on 250 acres of that. What are they doing with the rest of it? That's what's in that redacted contract with DTE and Green Chili Ventures. We don't know what's coming next. We have no clue. My husband and I, we formed a nonprofit, Rural Michigan Defense Fund, to help our local citizens really fight this battle. This is not what I wanted to spend my retirement years doing. Fighting for the life I thought I was just going to be able to work hard and get to.
Hey, Russ,
Thank you for the time.
let's get in line, dude.
Thank you for your testimony, Tammy.
I'm after Ron.
Next, we
And then
will have
Howie.
Tim Moon.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
We got Ron after
I'm
Ron.
also a Slate Township resident, and I live a mile and a half away. I can hear the noise from your construction every day. I've been relentlessly fighting this development since July of last year. In a perfect world, hyperscale data centers would not be built in Michigan. They are not critical infrastructure and serve no purpose aside from surveilling us, making billionaires and unscrupulous politicians richer. Countless Michiganders have said loud and clear that we don't want them, period, and yet they march on. Why are we sacrificing productive farmland when approximately 1.5 million residents face food insecurity? There must be a better way. If these are going to be rammed down our throats, it should at least be on our own terms. I have two thoughts to consider. One is eliminating tax breaks and controlling where they're built. The second is to incentivize landowners to keep the land agricultural. With over 24,000 known contaminated brownfield sites, 267 closed automotive plants, hundreds of abandoned malls, and thousands of vacant homes, Michigan has no shortage of land that could be repurposed for development. Data centers and industrial solar should be mandated to these sites. They should be treated like high-risk financing options, taxed over 100% due to their energy usage and environmental damage. If we're going to give tax breaks to someone, it should be farmers who have long struggled to make ends meet. As a further incentive, if the property is sold or leased for industrial purposes, they would be subject to a higher than normal tax rate. Oh, and while we're at it, let's take down the monopoly DTE has over our power grid so that it serves the people of Michigan, not the stockholders and executives. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you to the first group of you who testified. At this time, if those of you who testified are able to leave it, please have that happen, and we'll have the next 10 people come on in.
People on the left must be people who are speaking. They could just be. That's true. You would overflow. But I don't know. Disagreement and churches, and they did have signs. So they're lying about this. Is it loud enough? All right. Good job. All right.
Hey, nicely done. Score on that.
I like yours. You're gonna do so much.
All right. Next up, we have Jason Dye.
Good morning. I'm here to remind everyone of the United States Constitution. Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them, or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. That is the Constitution. So let me ask this committee a very simple question. When you strip your own people of transparency, due process, property protections, and meaningful
Right, so we're
public
gonna
consent in order to
prepare
help
for the next group,
foreign-linked corporate
same
money
procedure.
or politically connected interests get their hands on Michigan land, water, Michigan power, and
Gary
Michigan
Parker?
tax board, what the hell do you think that starts to look like? My name is Jason, and I'm here to remind you that you do not work for corporations. You do not work for lobbyists. You do not work for backroom deal makers. You work for we the people. And some of you are acting like you forgot that. The First Amendment protects mine and everyone else's
Steve
right to
Nemeth?
stand here and speak, assemble, and petition this government for
Steve
redress
Nemeth?
of grievance. The 14th Amendment says the state cannot deprive any person of life,
Paul
liberty,
Doyle.
and property without due process of law. And the Constitution does not stop applying just because you shove a corporation in between
Dina
the
Martin.
government and the damage. You do not get to use private actors to bypass constitutional limits. You do not get to hide behind NDAs,
Paula
selective
Murphy.
disclosure, and corporate secrecy while the public is expected to bear the burden. You do not get to sacrifice our land, our water, our homes, our farms, our utility rates,
Patrick
and our
Lynn.
property rights to so somebody else can get rich and call it development. That is not oversight, that is not
Patrick.
representation, that is not public service. That is a government forgetting who its master is.
Jackie Lannon.
And let's talk about that master. It is not the corporation, it is not the donor class, it is not the foreign investor. It is the people of this state. We put
Petty.
you in office to protect life, liberty, and property, not line your pockets, not hide the truth, not cut sweetheart deals, not to rubber stamp projects while the people are asking questions and getting treated like they are the problem. If this thing is so great, then why in the hell are there so many NDAs? If this thing is so safe, why isn't there full disclosure? Why
Did
don't we
anyone
talk
just
about
show up now who
why
hasn't
don't we talk
spoken?
about alternative options of
Just
a
showed up
refrigerated
now.
air for the
What's your
cooling
name?
process?
Taiwan.
If this thing is so necessary, then why are you targeting good land and water while already damaged industrial land sits there waiting, hence GMs? If this thing is so beneficial, then why are regular people the ones being asked to carry on the risk of the poisoned water, damaged land, higher energy?
You'll be in the
demand,
next group
higher
as well,
rates, and
so
permanent consequences? And
I'll
if
call
the
y'all
only
up in the
one
same
with money
order,
is
when
anywhere
they're
in
on
this chain,
the second
then
last
the public
person.
has an absolute right to know who's involved, who benefits, and who negotiated what, and who sold us out. Because when the government starts helping
One.
powerful outside interests at the direct expense of its own people, when it starts crushing the rights of citizens to make way for
Taiwan,
money and
Sergio.
influence, when it starts treating constitutional protections like speed bumps, then yes, the people start asking,
Brian
whether you are
Munger.
giving aid and comfort to forces hostile to the interests of your own citizens. You may not like hearing that, too bad. That is what happens when public servants start acting like corporate errand boys. So here is my message. No more secrecy. No
Paul
more
Meyer.
NDAs used as a shield against the people.
Paul
No
Meyer.
more corporate bypass of constitutional protections. No
Right
more
here.
destruction of farmland and clean land while
Paula Coltrider.
brownfields rot. No more public harm as public benefit. No
Oh,
more
yeah.
elected
Forgot I
officials
marked that.
pretending they are above the
Anthony
people who
Hudson.
hired them. You answer to us. If you cannot defend this
I guess
project
they're moving
in the open
forward.
with full disclosure, with full constitutional honesty, with real due process, and with real enforcement protection of our land, our water, and our property, then you have no damn business moving it forward. It's that simple. We the people are not your obstacle. We are your boss. And some of you need to remember
Paul
that.
Meyer.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Jason.
Paul Meyer. Okay, you'll be the next.
Next, we have Regina Bergstrom.
Good morning, my name is Regina Bergstrom. I live in Vandalia, Penn Township, about 3 miles from the proposed site of a data center in Cass County. I have many concerns about this center. The first is that our township board is pushing this project through without any public comments and input. We have not received any notices of this upcoming bill. At a township meeting, we were told the issue wouldn't even be on the agenda at a board meeting. The board is supposed to be advocating for the people, but we've been given no recourse to fight this project. The second is that water is a finite resource, and it has been proven that the companies building these centers lie about how much water they will use. In reality, they use between 1 and 5 million gallons of water a day. The water that has been used contains chemicals that will pollute our water supply. We must conserve our water. It's the new gold. Michigan is known for its beautiful lakes, and it would be catastrophic if our lakes and aquifers were drained to benefit these large investment companies. And the citizens get nothing in return except loud humming noises, lights, and decreased water, and possible raises in energy and water taxes. please, I'm asking for a moratorium to stop this project. So the citizens have time to get together and put up a fight. It is our right to have our voices heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Regina. Next up, we have Lauren Hodges.
Hello, thank you for your time. I am one of Gina's neighbors. My name is Lauren Hodges, and I'm here as a citizen of Vandalia, Michigan in Cass County. I lived in Indiana my whole life. I'm a diehard Hoosier up until 10 years ago when a weekend visit to a friend's house on the lake turned into a love story with nature. Within months, my family, my husband and I, and my 4 children relocated to this beautiful state permanently. Cass County is our chosen home. Pure Michigan is our chosen state. What we have here is worth protecting. We're facing a data center being placed in our community, and yet the people of Penn Township have been given no clear information about it, let alone having any say in decisions being made. The decisions are being made out of sight and not publicly shared. That lack of transparency within our township and the county is deeply unsettling, and that's why I'm here at the state level begging you for your help. The proposed site is within 5 miles of not only my home, but one of only 3 international dark sky parks in the state of Michigan. That matters. Once light pollution enters, you don't reclaim the night. Once constant industrial noise becomes part of the landscape, you don't return to quiet. No peepers, no bullfrogs. And when large-scale water usage begins to draw from the same systems, our lakes and our communities rely on, that impact is devastating, and it has generational results. These are not temporary disruptions. All of this without any open dialogue on our local level, no rezoning transparency, and without facts. This is a tragedy. I'm here because I'm not against progress. I'm here because I believe progress should not come at the cost of the things that make a place worth living in. There are some places where tech growth makes sense, and there are some places where what already exists is the value. Thank you.
Pretty much, you
Thank
can
you,
provide your
Lauren.
written testimony to.
Next up, we will have Cindy Forte. And we are giving you all a little bit of latitude on that 2 minutes, just so it's clear.
Good morning, my name is Cindy Forte, and I am a resident in Gaines Township, Michigan, where Microsoft is proposing to build a hyperscale data center in my very backyard. I wanted to say that I feel misrepresented by our Planning Commission Supervisor, Dan Wells, who testified here last week, just hours before our township meeting, where the committee ended up tabling the rezoning request from Microsoft. He was asked by you whether there was any community pushback regarding the data center, to which he answered no. There was no public comment on either the township's master plan update or zoning ordinance updates. I would like to remind everyone here that the 300+ acres that Microsoft purchased in 2023 was under a non-disclosure agreement, and the parcel was rezoned as industrial either prior to or as a condition of the sale. So you can imagine the frustration I feel as a resident when we were asked for feedback on projects we knew absolutely nothing about. Had the township explicitly stated the intentions of the parcel that was acquired by Microsoft and included the community in its discussion on how something of this scale would be received, we could have started these very discussions back in 2023. But we were not made aware of the data center until recently. There were over 600 people in attendance at our township meeting last week. Tons of people spoke out against it, and the meeting lasted over 5 hours. To say there is pushback from our community is an understatement. Mr. Wells also referenced the current Switch data center in Gaines Township, which is a tiny fraction of just one of the 7 buildings that Microsoft wants to build. It has no residential or school neighbors and sits on a much smaller parcel of land. So to compare the two is insulting. Since we know little to nothing about the long-term impacts, data centers should have a zoning classification of their own with at least 1,000-foot setbacks, water and energy use limitations, far below 65 decibel noise levels, continuous environmental impact monitoring, and built without residents or school neighbors for miles. There are data centers currently in litigation all over the country for groundwater contamination, energy cost spikes, and to be banned altogether. The federal government has introduced legislation for a moratorium on all data centers. Can the state of Michigan do the same? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Cindy. And next up, we have Wendy Albers.
Good morning. My name is Wendy Albers, and I'm a resident of Augusta Township located in Washington County. In May of 2025, Augusta Township was asked to rezone over 520 acres of agricultural residential land for a hyperscale data center. Nearly every resident in attendance of the first and only public hearing with Thor Equities, the developer behind the project, had objections. Augusta residents never learned which big tech company was partnering with Thor Equities. The Planning Commission voted down the rezoning request, but Thor Equities stated they would pursue this project to the Augusta Board of Trustees. After all, they had a timeline that needed to be met. The board unanimously voted for the rezoning despite township objections. There has been no pause button to research and understand what the consequences of building such a project in our rural community would mean and what unintended consequences would develop if this project moved forward. People move to Augusta for its quiet, peaceful country living, not for large industrial projects. Hyperscale data centers will forever change landscapes, consume unprecedented levels of resources, and be a detriment to the health of people and animals residing in communities where our elected officials approve them. You've seen how data centers across Michigan are bullying their way into our communities. Tech companies say they will be good neighbors and will leave if the community doesn't want them. That has been a lie. Who is protecting Michigan residents? What happened to pure Michigan? Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, and whatever other party there is have come together to object to these projects. Michigan residents overwhelmingly do not want hyperscale data centers in their communities. We are tired of the secret deals, the redacted contracts, the NDAs, the tax breaks, the constant rate increases, the local officials ignoring their constituents, and the horrible MPSC. Residents deserve better, and we will remember at the ballot box. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you, Cindy. Sorry, that was Wendy. Next up, we have Josh Bogus. Bogus? One of those.
Right. I'm Joshua Bogus from Genesee County. Before I say another word, the Constitution defines treason as adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort when officials help outside interests trample the rights, land, water, and property of their own people. Don't act shock resistant, start asking hard questions about oil leak. The Netherlands said no to data centers. Singapore said no. Ireland said no. Maine just became the first U.S. state to pass a moratorium. 11 more states, including Michigan, have bills on the table. 140 local governments have blocked over $60 billion in projects in the last year. The rest of the world is figuring out they've been had. The only question is whether Genesee County gets played last. One question before another acre of farmland gets paved. Why are we destroying clean land for a toxic industry when we have hundreds of acres of poison land right here? With cleanup money already attached, sitting on cold water landfill, has PFAS in the groundwater, residential wells confirmed contaminated, eagle violations on record, families drinking poisoned water today. Well, Racer cleanup money sits idle, and we talk about rezoning farmland for a new toxic facility. Representative Carr, oversight of corporate subsidies. Is your committee asked out loud why we're handing premium tax breaks to destroy farmland when poisoned people in this county need that money far more? One more thing, citizens have been arrested without warrants for speaking at public meetings in Genesee County. When that happens, people stop speaking and $1 billion deals gets cut in rooms nobody's watching. Sheriff Swanson, I understand you're running for governor. You just got all your signatures. Simple question. Will you commit tonight that no citizen in Genesee County will be arrested for attending a public meeting, filming in public, or speaking during public comment? Furthermore, will you commit to stopping the prosecution of those that have already been wrongfully. That's the First Amendment. If you're asking Michigan to take your governor, we'd like to hear your answer right here, where we can hear it all. Industrial facilities on industrial land, raise their money for what it's meant for. Leave farms alone. This is our country, our water, our farmland. We are not for sale. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Next, we have Greg Krupa.
We want no more sacrificed communities, right? Because the industrial builds in Detroit, they sacrifice communities. Those are all right next to residents too. They're just going down the list because they don't give a shit what anybody.
Here with me a second.
He's a test.
Thank you. My name is Greg Krupa. I'm a member of the board of directors of Peace Action Michigan, which has been active against nuclear weapons since 1957 as part of a national group called Peace Action. Mr. Chairman, thanks to you and your staff for a prompt response to a letter from our director, the Reverend Rich Peacock, earlier this week. It was forthright, candid, very informative. We really appreciate it. What is clear at this hour is the state is forcing its taxpayers to spend $100 million to help proliferate nuclear weapons with a data center in Ypsilanti Township, where the trustees say they want nothing of the sort and are now engaged in a no-holds-barred governing and legal strategy to stop it. Meanwhile, a recipient of the $100 million state welfare check, the University of Michigan, has publicly prevaricated about the intended use of nuclear weapons data center, and according to one township official, lied at the start about its intentions in acquiring some land in the township. 5 days after the $100 million from the public given state officials for nuclear weapons proliferation, when the doomsday clock of the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists is at 1 minute and 25 seconds before midnight, the closest we have ever been to indicating imminent destruction. That was before the President of the United States threatened to destroy a civilization, and the President of Russia learned that Ukraine is poised to best him in the drones race that may well decide that war. At a moment like this, the peace-loving residents of the state of Michigan should not be forced to pay $100 million to its vaunted state university and the nuclear weapons laboratory, its partner, which is undertaking a massive overhaul of the nation's vast nuclear weapons arsenal and designing a new, terrifyingly more powerful warhead. Those are among the current enterprises of the Los Alamos National Laboratory. And according to experts on the production of nuclear weapons, Los Alamos would use the state corporate welfare to take data from live nuclear testing of decades past to simulate new testing of new and improved weapons of mass destruction. That would be the data in the center the township adamantly does not want. A world is increasingly less likely to survive, for which this state and that august university is jamming down our throats. We should all seek approval of the legislation now in committee to revoke the $100 million from that project. Stop the madness.
Thank you, Greg. Next up, we have Russ Bellens.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I have a different approach and emphasis on why data centers should not be regulated, they should be banned. The data centers are being designed to enhance the capacity for collecting data on American citizens. Now, some people will think, well, that sounds conspiratorial. Excuse me, did you see what happened in January and February and March of 2025 when one of the big tech executives that we're going to talk about, Elon Musk, took all our IRS data, took our social security data, took our medical data, our education data, took all the all the executive branch data that they could, possibly military records? Where did it go? Anybody know? Raise your hand. It went to Palantir. His business partner, Jeff, excuse me, I'm sorry, I can't believe I'm blanking. Went to Palantir and it was incorporated in their system. But if they are willing to pay $250 million in donations to take that data and put it in the largest private spy agency in the world, which by the way was initiated from investment funds of the CIA and has huge classified CIA contracts. We don't know the dollar amount, but the Pentagon budgets are billions of dollars to them. Same with England, same with Italy, same with France, same with Germany, same with Australia and other countries. They're mastering the military intelligence complexes of the Northern Hemisphere. You can't, what does that mean? You can't master all the credit card data they collect, the license plate readers, the cryptocurrencies, and all the change where they want to keep profiles for commercial interests, which are planning to tie into this. I won't detail that now. And the reason they are doing this is, the evidence they're doing this is because they've also launched, do you know how many satellites Elon Musk has launched in the last 5 years? He's got 10,000 satellites orbiting the Earth right now, and he applied from the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, to have permits to put 1 million satellites in orbit. They're monitoring everything going on in the Amazon, in Europe, everywhere. This is about control, because if you read Michael Brock, a high-tech business executive who wrote a piece a year ago on big tech, the Palantir leadership and the SpaceX leadership, Musk et al., none of them believe in constitutional government. They don't believe in the concept of citizenship. What they believe is that there needs to be a whole restructuring of society to a hard edge, they say, and take over. And they need, as they abolish the systems that we've created, they need their own systems to control what they plan to build. This has been put together by high-tech people who studied them. I'll share it all with anybody on this committee that wants to know more, and anybody in the public. It's the surveillance and the suppression that we need to be objecting to their existence on.
Thank you, Russ.
All right, so I'm gonna call the next group, just get
Next
order
we
of
have
names
Lynn
that I'm calling.
Slight.
So first is Barry Parker.
My name is Lynn Slight.
Steve Nemeth.
My home is in Marshall, Michigan. We, the people of Michigan, must be diligently responsible
Paula Murphy.
stewards of our water. Our lakes,
Paula Murphy.
rivers, streams, wetlands,
Patrick
groundwater.
Lynn.
Water is our superpower.
Jackie Land.
As adults,
Teddy.
we are financially
Brian.
responsible as well.
Ryan Munger.
The long-term financial harm can be overlooked when building a data center. I strongly suggest educating
Jeff
yourself.
Newton.
A good place to start.
Paul Meyer.
This is not political. It is solely educational.
And then we'll.
YouTube. Search Prescott Belch. Prescott is a technology expert. He's also a financial expert. Prescott can easily be searched on YouTube. It's a very good source of information on financial harm of data centers. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. I will look into that, but please, no signs. I guess we snuck and got away with it. All All right, next up we have Holly Harmon.
Good morning. I want to thank you, Steve, and this committee for shining a spotlight on the many concerns of the citizens across Michigan. Right now, the hot topic are the new hyperscale data centers that seem to be popping up all over our state at an alarming rate. By now, you've heard the numerous reasons these new data centers can and have produced negative impacts on the surrounding areas in which they are located. I live in Marshall, and the one they propose there will be next to our Brooks Nature Center and Wetlands area. I can't imagine who in their right mind thought that was a great idea. We have a great group in Marshall that came to Lansing and spent hours going floor to floor to different buildings to lobby our senators and representatives to address our concerns and ask our legislators to pass these bills. In the House, Data Center Tax Break Repeal, Data Center Regulation Act, statewide moratorium, Data Center Non-Disclosure Agreement ban. In the Senate, limit massive water consumption, require data centers to report water and energy use, prevent data centers from passing infrastructure costs to residential ratepayers. A couple of weeks ago, there were statewide rallies held all over Michigan. I was lucky enough to go to Howell, Lansing, and Grand Rapids and met other awesome, everyday people coming together to try to protect our communities from the massive hidden costs of these industrial data centers, which will drain our local water supplies, jack up our energy bills, create constant sleep-disturbing noise pollution, and prioritize tech profits over our quality of life. Please help to pass the bipartisan bills that halt data center approvals. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. And with that, if the 10 of you who just testified would be willing to leave at this time so that the next people can come and appreciate it. Remember, there are overflow rooms as you came from, so you can go back to the overflow room and watch the committee from there.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. Amazing. Plus Enfield Lounge, right? Yeah, you got my sign. No, you got your sign. Oh, you're in the car, I'm heading to. You are, okay, perfect sign is in the car. Yeah, good job, guys.
Just a reminder.
That's your thing.
So we had 169 requests, over 200 requests, and more obviously fake. But we have it appear to be about 170. We have about 33 of those. So we had about 140 people expecting to testify. They had written whether they were opposed or supportive. And for what it's worth, other than those 35 or 40 fake ones, there are 2 people who had written down that they wanted to speak in support of data centers. The other roughly 178 were all opposed. The 2 who signed up to be in support are not here today, to my understanding. According to my list, that would have been Paul Rodriguez and Edward Friends. If either of you are here, definitely want to make sure we give you the chance to testify, to hear your perspective as well. But we do not have them as checked in. So I just wanted to give a little bit of that housekeeping reminder as we get closer to noon here. Some of the committee members will have to leave, but we will still continue on past 12. But we probably will not have full-time director. We're not here. If you did not sign up to testify and you do want to testify, please let my staff know on the other rooms and the other areas, and we'll accommodate the schedule as best we can. Again, nothing campaign related in your testimony, but if you want to testify, regardless of whether or not you're running for office, we're going to open that up as we do have ample time. And with that, we will get back to our testifiers. So, with that, we are on Dury Parker.
Good morning, committee members. This is my first time speaking in an avenue like this. And I was going to take, I'm a retired healthcare worker, and I was going to take you on my 4 C's of my data center journey. Number 1 being corruption. Our LDFA entered into a contract on October 30th, 2025 with a company that didn't exist on paper until January of 26. Number 2, contamination. We started our investigating data centers and we're very concerned with the air, noise, light, heat, and water pollution, along with the environmental impact with the proposed site being adjacent to a wetlands, lake, and schools. And the schools that we're talking about are within a 2-mile radius, and the entire city of Marshall being within the 5-mile radius. Number 3, concern. We've encouraged the citizens of Marshall to get involved by writing our city council members and showing up at meetings to voice our concerns. Number 4, collaboration. This has been one of the good things to come out of the fight. Meeting wonderful people, and in general, people helping people. Thank you for this opportunity to speak, especially being Earth Day.
Thank you, Dury. Next up, we have Steve Namath.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the subcommittee. I'd like to echo what you just said. It is good to see citizens of this state and of this country actually coming together and speaking up for their rights. A lot of people here today will hopefully talk about energy use and air quality. But energy prices and water use are not the only ways that data centers affect us and our communities. Data centers will impact land use, infrastructure, energy grids. We already have rising power bills. There's the possibility of water, soil, and air contamination, and of course, the cost to the taxpayer. In reference to data centers, the World Resources Institute states, quote, "But today's expansion is unfolding at a much larger scale and faster pace than ever before. It is fueled by billions of dollars in private investment, state tax incentives, and federal directives aimed at fast-tracking permitting," end quote. I remind the people of today that in the 12th and 13th century, the Greeks gave the people of Troy a gift. That gift was a promise to make the Trojans impregnable. As legend would have it, it did just the opposite. According to Britannica.com, quote, "Beginning in the late 20th century, the name Trojan horse was applied to deceptive, benign computer codes that seem like legitimate applications but are written to damage and disrupt a computer's programming or to steal personal information," end quote. To steal personal information. What is the purpose of a data center? The list of local services that are becoming dependent on data centers is almost limitless. Banking, healthcare, emergency services, government, nonprofits, utilities, transportation, education, and of course, shopping and entertainment, to name just a few. In any situation where data is used for any reason, data centers are involved. What could possibly go wrong there? It is not like there haven't been plenty of books and movies made warning of the possibility of becoming dependent on computers and allowing our government to surveil us, all of us, And it has worked out so well for the Russians, the Chinese, and let's not forget the Germans. The purpose of government is protection. Protect us from foreign influences and governments, protect us from each other. That is why police cars used to say to protect and serve, but perhaps most importantly, to protect us from our government. Thank you for your time and this opportunity.
Thank you, Steve. Next up, we have Paula Murphy.
Some patience for me, because I really hate talking like this. I'm gonna start with the PFAS, specifically all the chemicals that you're fully aware of. A clear, odorless, flameless, and toxic liquid that can cause use for antifreeze. Our refrigerators, we can't just throw our refrigerators out because of the chemicals that are inside them. You wanna bring that chemicals and put them right into our farmland, into our neighborhoods and our lands. Water treatment chemicals, the corrosion inhibitors such as nitrates and malabrids. I can't pronounce them all, blah, blah, blah. So you know all the chemicals that are. According to a September 25th study, these pollutants increase the rate of respiratory disease, cardiovascular conditions, and are elevated cancer risk among nearby communities. In 2025 model indicated that U.S. data center in 2030 would increase approximately 600,000 asthma symptoms cases, 130,000 premature deaths, exceeding 1/3 asthma deaths in the U.S., resulting in a public health burden of over more than $20 billion. Now, mind you, those data centers that the study is on like the same size of the 74 other data centers we already have in Michigan, not mega data centers. Shipping container size diesel generators on site. What is the problem with these? Again, the toxic chemicals, the benzyes, arsenic, and other chronic respiratory illnesses like asthma and life-threatening conditions that demand response. The need to provide power, then when our energy system can't deliver electricity efficiently during high and low temperatures, simply put, the energy power issues can be used to turn on the polluting generators causing during the hottest days of the summer. What happens with these generators? Again, more cancer causing chemicals out in our farmland and in our homes and everything else. Who's paying for that?
Thank you, Paula. Next up, we have Patrick Lind.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. By the conclusion of today's public testimony, you will have heard objections to hyperscale data centers due to energy and water consumption, as well as air, light, and water pollution. I would like to add my opposition based on another concern, the destruction of communities. Across the state, a pattern has emerged which shows multi-billion-dollar corporations, developers, and 2 utility providers working with local authorities to bring data center facilities to many rural or smaller city areas, all while concealing these plans from residents. In the Mason area where I live, the mayor and city manager have labored for many months in relative secrecy to attempt to bring such a facility to the area. These preparations were ongoing with no awareness of the public at large until an unveiling very late last year. No forewarning was offered to local townships, including the one whose land is planned to be used and likely annexed from. Our community, which shares a school district and post office, among other things, has been upended and the target of an attempt to divide us between city and township residents. Like many other local Michigan locales, we are united in our opposition to the loss of the rural characteristics and small town appeal we now enjoy. We are seeking to remove from office local and state officials who support these hyperscale projects. I implore our state legislators to end data center incentives, reinstate local control of this and energy projects, preserve the resources and beauty found in rural Michigan, and allow our communities to heal from this tension. Thank you for your time and your careful consideration of this matter.
Thank you, Patrick. Next, we have Jackie Landon.
Hello, my name is Jackie Landon, and I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'm an aquatic biologist and co-owner of an environmental firm with my husband called Native Edge. I study the impacts of land use on Michigan streams and watersheds, and I can quickly tell you, data centers should be banned. Many people think, since we're surrounded by the Great Lakes, that must mean we have an unlimited supply of water, but that's not true. Every watershed has its issues. Our company was hired to create a native educational garden in Ottawa County a few years ago because the county's wells are drying up. What happens to communities that are forced to have data centers with a similar problem? We cannot live without water. And we know no matter the system, AI data centers use millions of water each day. This is not sustainable. Michigan is a special place. We have so many beautiful parks, beaches, lakes, rivers, but we risk destroying the things that make Michigan home. When people visit Michigan, we have signs that probably say, "Welcome to pure Michigan." There's nothing pure about a data center, nothing pure about our water getting drained and polluting our aquifers, nothing pure about replacing workers with robots, and nothing pure about the noise that forces people in this room away from their homes. What direction will Michigan go? Will we protect our natural resources and the communities, or go with a group of billionaire tech bros that admit that AI has a chance of killing humanity, has already caused mass layoffs, and has no benefit to the community? This is not the future I want for my kids or yours. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jackie. Next, we have Teddy Despolari.
Good morning, and may it please this honorable committee. My name is Teddy Despolari, and I'm in my final year of law school at Wayne State University. I am here on behalf of our Environmental Law Society. I urge this committee to withhold support for any project that proceeds without transparency and environmental safeguards. Data centers pose serious environmental risks, including that shape their land, water, and future. Look at this scene where residents showed up, raised their concerns, but the outcome was already decided, antithetical to meaningful public participation. We are not the enemy of innovation. Rather, we're advocating for a responsible and sustainable development that prioritizes environmental protection and, again, public transparency. A statewide moratorium will provide the necessary time to conduct thorough environmental impact assessments and ensure that any future data center projects align with Michigan's sustainability goals and public interest, including the expansion of community solar as a proven, community-driven energy solution. Data centers aren't new. What's different now is the scale. The rapid expansion of artificial intelligence is driving an unprecedented demand for computing infrastructure. This is about safeguarding our environment and ensuring that Michigan residents have a voice in developments that affect their communities. Michigan's not behind or early. We have the opportunity to do this correctly and ensure transparency. I urge the state of Michigan to act now while this window is still open. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Teddy. Next, we have Brian Munger. Signed up today, so listed as unknown. We'll find out if you're opposed or supportive.
I'm kind of an impromptu speaker. I have to be careful what comes out of my mouth. First of all, though, I'd like to thank those people that were going to speak in favor of the data center for not showing up today. But I sure wish they had showed up, because I would love to hear what their explanation and what is so great about data centers other than destroying our water, our land, our environment, and just being totally, there's no pluses there except for the trillionaires who are putting the money in, and it's totally a situation where it is a situation where it's all about money, and it shouldn't be about money. It should be about what is good with what we have to begin with, without destroying in the near future of what we have. I was very dismayed when I was at a local meeting and found out or heard accusations that money was being offered to legislators, and that there were those who were accepting. And part of the problem of this is it's not just one side of the issue. It's not one party, it's all parties. And it runs all the way from local legislators all the way up to the governor's office and more. I'm very saddened with that, and the issue shouldn't be about money. And the fact that money has come in to be about, I'm very dismayed by that. And I'm sorry that I've taken up your time today, but hope you find it, if nothing else, a little entertaining. Thank you.
Appreciate your time and everyone who took the time to come up here, Brian. You're not wasting our time. You're part of educating us on what the public court perception is on these. So next up, we have Jeff Newton.
Firstly, thank you to the committee here for your time. My name is Jet Newton. I am from St. Joe. I am a merchant mariner, but also like Mr. Nate, who gave testimony earlier, I am a history nerd. And in my favorite speech delivered 150 years ago, William Jennings Bryan declared that America would not be crucified on a cross of gold. And sitting here today, I find we are approached with a new cross, one that is made of silicon. These tech companies have promised jobs while automating millions of them. And according to Forrester Research, they will take 10 million more by 2030. If these data centers were quiet, if they didn't need power, if they didn't pollute our environment, I would still oppose them because we are not mature enough to use this technology correctly. We are the richest civilization in human history, but we don't live like it. 35,000 people in our state are homeless. 1.5 million of us go hungry, including 400,000 children. Nearly half of us are living paycheck to paycheck, and I don't have to pull out a statistic to tell people that things are just kind of bad right now for the average guy. And we are, as a country, America is richer than it has ever been, but Americans are not. And yet we are told to give more. We are told to give our land. We are told to give our power and our water to companies like Amazon and Microsoft with no guarantee that the benefits will ever reach the people footing the bill. And having been someone who has met some people who are rather wealthy on that end, they don't really care too much about getting that benefit down to us. And our government, state and federal, has failed to stop this consolidation of power before, but we have a chance now to draw the line. This moratorium is not fear, it is not NIMBYism, it is discipline. It is the bare minimum in the face of a technology that is moving faster than our institutions and faster than our ability to protect the working people that you represent. Please do not let Michigan be crucified on a cross of silicon. Please vote yes on this moratorium. Thank you.
Thank you, Jet. Next, we have Paul Meyer.
Thank you, Chair and committee members. My name is Paul Meyer. I am from Grand Rapids, Michigan. It is clear Michigan has no regulations for data centers. And many of our elected officials are purposely neglecting this issue. Based on a Gaines Township meeting, they want to put zoning for a data center in the same class as a Coca-Cola truck company and also a Old Dominion trucking location. With the Coca-Cola station, it has fencing on the back side of the building and open space on the front side of the building. This data center will be using berms to hide security bars, hide any activity on site, and buffer noise from this enclosed building. These trucking locations have no berms, they have no noise complaints, and they have open areas that the public can easily see through. We need data center specific zoning codes for these places. The power consumption. The state wants to close down an 800 megawatt coal power plant. This is being replaced by a 200 megawatt solar farm. One data center uses 1.4 gigawatts. This lack of electricity could create a problem for us. One solution could be to use these smart meters. The meters that turn home air conditioning off during the summer when we want it most. The power company, maybe a data center, could use those smart meters to turn the home power off when they need it. It'd be up to, the power company or the data center to decide when. Who will get the first choice of electricity, homes or data centers? The other possibility for powering up data centers would be on-site generation. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This could be a small nuclear station, windmills, anything that the data center wants to use. Let's have a moratorium with the on-site power generation for data centers. Data centers in the cyber age. You will comply, you will not turn it down. Open and elected government now operates with non-disclosure contracts for hiding. No Choice will handle your information. You will have no choice. You do not like data centers? Tough luck. You have, once again, no choice on that information if they will handle it or that you will not allow them to handle that information. With the Coca-Cola issue, no one is going to punish you if you don't buy Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola in my home will not record or take over my camera system, covertly neither. That's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Perfect, thank you, Paul. All right, with that, we'll go at ease while we bring more people in. If those of you who just testified will go to the overflow room, we appreciate it. And thank you, committee members who will be leaving because they have 12 o'clock commitments.
While I was in there speaking, right off, like facing. No, just a second. Yeah, good one.
I'll see if you make the front page.
Morning. Thanks for taking the time to listen to me. My name's Emerson Hyde. I've spent most of my life working the power plants and a farmer. I'm from Mason. We have a city board out there that never notified us of anything until after supposedly the damage was done. There's no transparency. There's been no transparency out there whatsoever. The state, I understand, has given big tax incentives to these trillion-dollar companies to come in and put data centers in. Why the state has done something like this, I don't understand. The state never researched the damage that these data centers can do. The impact to the water, the air, the electricity, our infrastructure will not carry the power that these data centers need. These power plants don't have the power to produce that these data centers need. You know, once you destroy this land, what have you got left? Michigan is a beautiful place. I was born and raised just outside of town here. I don't want to see it destroyed. We need a moratorium. If not, stop with these data centers. You have data centers that are already in existence. Stop any new ones from being built, started, or in progress. Stop. Take the time to take the existing data centers that are already in it. That are in existence and study the impact that they are having on the local communities. You know, water, air, and human health. I guess I'm just asking for the board to consider a moratorium. Thank you for your time.
Everyone, thank you, Emerson. And we're not interested in saying to the group when they came in, but we'll have these folders. We'll have the yellow one for a 30-second reminder and the red one for a 15-second reminder. But you did a great job. Thank you. And next up, we have Paula Comrider.
In the back in 2 minutes.
I'm Paula.
Yes, nice to meet you, Paul.
Well, hello. I'm here to testify to this, about the statewide effort in the dark against the constituents across the state with different organizations. On January 28th, State Representative Jamie Green hosted a data center briefing for legislators with the Director of State Policy from the Data Center Coalition. On their website, it coaches people at the state level of how to push a data center through in the state in the dark. This is my conclusion with this well-oiled plan. Next, we have the Right Place in Grand Rapids hosting our Michigan Council members, Gaines, Lowell, and Salon areas. US Signal, which talks about data centers and solar farms working together across the state of Michigan, and state reps, all organized by Randy Phelan, the CEO of the Right Place, working behind the scenes. And if you want proof, there are multiple FOIAs that can be found as posted all over line. Even in Mason, Michigan, where I grew up, we have FOIAs of City Manager Deb Stewart, who used to work for MEDC, working with the people in the dark in Daylor Data Center Alley in New Albany, Ohio, along with Mayor Whipple and our city and someone from the Planning Commissioner, Elizabeth Hughes, for a flagship development project well before the citizens of Mason knew, behind the backs of the residents who are now fighting back. Next, let's talk utilities, DTE and Consumers Energy. According to an article in the Detroit News, Governor Whitmer was given $550,000 and Representative Matt Hall, Speaker of the House, was given $750,000. These utility companies are lining the pockets of our politicians with money that we all pay, I'm guessing for favorable votes. And now DTE and Consumers Energy are working in tandem with Microsoft, as we saw in Gaines, pushing a data center with a project with 7 of them in Gaines Township. We need to stop these companies, these politicians, utility companies working against the people in the dark. We have real estate agents with Lakeshore Advantage and Advantage Real Estate all working together. In Door, a farmer sold his property for $1.3 million just to have that real estate flip it to Microsoft for $33 million. Our politicians have not been transparent. They've all signed NDAs. Our elected officials locally and at the state level have forgotten who they work for. Because of this tyrannical power grab all across the state with our elected officials, Microsoft, DTE, and Consumers Energy all working against the people with the money that we pay, and their plans of just working in the dark against everybody here, I would hope that you would put through a 1-year moratorium to slow down, do the research, and start working for the people and not big tech, because this is pure Michigan. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Next, we have Anthony Hudson.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God.
Thank you, Steve, members of the committee. My name is Anthony Hudson, and this is my 31st meeting that I've gone to about data centers, 100% in opposition of these things. From Michigan City to Monroe County to Mason to Mackinac Bridge, no data centers ever here. We are losing trust in our politicians. And a politician is defined as someone who is actively involved in politics. A person that works within a government system to represent the people. Represent the people. Your job description is to represent the people. We have been speaking loudly, we have been speaking boldly, and we are losing faith in our representatives, in our government. When the people fear government, it's tyranny. When the government feels the people, it's liberty. And we, the people, feel like we're losing our liberty. I ask each and every one of you to stand up, not be afraid, and fight this fight with us. We have spoken all across the state. I bet I can count on one hand the number of people that have been in support of a data center in my journeys across the state. We outnumber you. We pay you. We want to support you. I can't speak about what it is I'm doing here today, but as a loud voice against data centers, I need you to understand that your job solely exists on my labor. My blood, sweat, and tears, that money's supposed to go to my family, but I have to pay you. And sometimes I feel like you guys listening to us is just a formality. Half the time, people are looking down, they're looking on the computers, they're writing things down. They're not giving us the respect that we deserve. We drove here, we took time out of our day to speak with you and acknowledge you. We want to be respected. If the people rise up against government in the state of Michigan, which they have a right to do, if you interfere with our life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, we can rise up. I'm asking you to avoid that. Do the right thing. Be the voice of the people who elected you. It's the only reason you're sitting up there. And I will work with you in any way I can. And my proposal, I think we should have a 2-year moratorium so that we can figure out everything we need to know about these data centers. Thank you.
We have Laura Sherman.
Hi, my name is Laura Sherman. I'm from Vandalia, Michigan and Cass County. I'm here to speak about the risks associated with large-scale data centers and why our state should place a permanent moratorium. We don't want them. These are facts that we have to face if a data center is allowed to be built in our areas. In Morrow County, Oregon, groundwater testing near data centers has shown dangerous elevated levels of nitrates, PFAS, forever chemicals, and heavy metals. In this community, there's been a 46% increase in rare cancers, increased miscarriages, and chronic illnesses. These contaminants are associated with serious health risks and have exceeded federal safety guidelines. Water usage is another critical issue. Large data centers use about 1 to 5 million gallons of water a day for cooling. New Carlisle, Indiana residents have already reported declining well levels and reduced water pressure. They cannot flush their toilets and then go wash their hands because there's no water left. The homeowners are actually having to pay $20,000 or more to dig deeper wells on their own dime because of their Amazon data center being there. We already had a Flint water crisis and Benton Harbor water crisis. I think that's more than enough for Michigan. We don't want it. Wastewater strain must also be considered. So-called closed loop systems do require discharge. According to the Ingham County Drain Commissioner, that discharge will contain concentrated contaminants, PFAS, nitrates, heavy metals, which municipal treatment plants are not equipped to remove, nor can the wastewater plant handle the volume of waste that a data center produces. Upgrading or expanding these falls on taxpayers. Air quality is another measurable concern. South Haven, Mississippi, the NAACP is suing Elon Musk for its illegal methane gas turbines, emitting over 1,700 tons of nitrogen oxide annually. Can you guys imagine a permanent ozone action day here in Michigan? Because that's what it will be. You have a data center. Economic usage can affect lake levels and groundwater wells, property values, especially lake-dependent communities like Penn Township in Cass County, where a Microsoft data center is planned. We knew nothing about it. These data centers are modern-day Enron Ponzi schemes. And once again, the American taxpayer will foot the bill. Does anyone know that China and Saudi Arabia are partnered or have stake in most of these data centers? A subsidiary, Hyperscale, Alt Alliance, which does have ties to Saudi Arabia, is a publicly traded company. They have an SEC cease and desist order as of December 5th, 2025. The violations included are what many people have been talking about. Misleading disclosures, reporting, proxy statements, books and records violations, internal controls, materially false and misleading statements and omissions concerning a $50 million purchase order and a crypto asset mining business. This is where transparency is key, and these data centers do not provide this to us at all. Thank you for your time, and God bless us all.
Thank you for your testimony. Next up, we have Paula Boyle.
According to the White House press release on May 13, 2025, Saudi Arabia commits $600 billion in economic investment in the United States. Much of that $600 billion has been committed to build data center infrastructure here on American soil. We see the results of that with Saudi Arabia's Datavolt company having spent $20 billion on Oracle and Google. This is going towards data centers underway in Oakland County's Lyon Township with Google. Saudi Arabia's soft power is also animating big spends with Microsoft and Kent County's Gaines Township, Allegan County's Door Township, and now Cass County's Penn Township. Here in Michigan as well, we have the United Arab Emirates, MXX, partnering with Japan's SoftBank to build Stargate hyperscale in Saline Township. That will be a claimed $7 billion facility that just required $15 billion in debt financing from a private equity with other foreign ties. Gulf Sovereign Wealth Funds, strategic tech partners, have created co-development systems to build AI infrastructure. In 2023, kicked off a $3.2 trillion investment, a wave from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and UAE seeking financial returns in a stable regulatory climate. Translation, flexing their soft power on American soil. As massive as this might seem, Qatar has invested $1 billion in Saudi Arabia, $80 billion into transformative tech. Quantum for quantum computing and next-gen chips to run it. So that's $27 billion that we can identify spent on today's hyperscale data center, but $81 billion towards tomorrow's technology, quantum computing, which will require 1/100th of the AI infrastructure to operate. Now you tell me these projects on the table now aren't a big waste of investors and taxpayer money. Footnote, Reuters, April 20th, 2026, Gulf sovereign nations recently invested $5 billion in Amazon to buy part of Anthropic, adding to the hundreds of billions already invested in the US-based big tech. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Good to see you again. And next we have Deanna Martin.
Thanks for having us today, Steve. As a candidate for the 68th district seat, I am completely against data centers.
Remember nothing about you running for office.
Sorry. In Genesee County, we have so many vacant buildings right now. We have malls, empty parking lots. What about these buildings? The data centers are not good for Michigan whatsoever. Right now, the Virginia, Arizona, and Pennsylvania data centers are already causing the Colorado River to drought in areas. We all know about PFAS. Well, I know a lot about PFAS. PFAS is actually the reason why many people are on dialysis. In almost every city right now, there are 2 dialysis centers. What's going to happen with these data centers? They are full of very bad frequencies. There are good frequencies and bad frequencies. Dr. Royal Rife back in the 20s and 40s created the Rife machine, which is good frequencies. He was able to heal cancer. These frequencies are coming off of these data centers, are vibrating people's homes. These are very dangerous frequencies that can cause cancer and who knows what else. So that's not good for the American people here in Michigan. The energy cost increase is bad, but the actual price tag for these AI data centers are going to be the declining health of the Michigan residents that are nearby these homes. That is not okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think that is everybody looking to testify, if I understand correctly. And I know Minority Vice Chair Regella has a few things he wants to say, so I'm going to turn it over to him.
First, I just want to say thank you to all the people who came out today. We've spent 5 weeks on this topic, and it feels like we could spend more because I think this is one of the most important things that are facing all of humanity. I got a couple things I want to go through that we learned over the last couple weeks, and just the reality of the situation. We live in a time where 3 people control more wealth than the bottom half of Americans. A time where over 40% of Michigan families are struggling to make their needs. And what we're talking about here is some of the wealthiest companies in the world trying to use our electricity and our water to advance the technology that I think is a threat to the entire working class. We talked about some of the environmental concerns. You know, I know not everyone in the room probably agrees with this, but I certainly believe that climate change is an existential threat to our planet. And if we allow 5 corporations to use a massive amount of electricity and water, it will be impossible to meet that moment. Let alone the rate increases that we will be seeing from these data centers. People might have seen in the news recently, 1 out of every dollar we pay to DTE, they take a 16% profit. So when the 2 projects, the Saline Township project and the Van Buren Township project, are a combined estimated 3 million homes, or an increase to 75% of DTE's load, of course they want data centers to come here because they are going to make profits off of it. I think we need to hold our Wall Street-owned utility accountable and make sure that the people instead are paying less energy rates and making sure that the people's energy is put on. That being said, data centers have to run constantly. So when power is out, they will use diesel generator backups in order to stay on. And as some people came today and talked about how polluting diesel fuel can be, let alone the concerns of the destructions of acres of wetlands, as well as forever chemicals being used. But I want to touch on one other thing here too, which is the end goal. We talk about all the things that are wrong with data centers, but I think we have to recognize what these corporations and CEOs are trying to do, which is to advance AI technology, which has the ability to consolidate wealth and power to a way that we've never seen. Their goal, and the reason they want to scale up so large, is that they want to create something that's called AI general intelligence. So let me put that in simpler terms. They want to make an AI that is as smart or smarter than humans. That's really concerning to me, because if you can do that, imagine all of the jobs that will be replaced. You don't have to pay an AI healthcare. You don't have to listen to their complaints about working conditions, etc. Some people might think, hey, my job's safe. I do a manual labor job. But I will just point people, we saw, I think like 2 days ago, China hosted a humanoid robot seminar, and a robot actually broke the record for a half marathon and beat humans' records. So humanoid robots are advancing fast. If you could put an AI in a humanoid robot, think about other jobs that could be taken. Right now, studies are already showing that AI could replace up to 12 to 16% of workers with the technology that they have currently. And I think another question we just need to answer and push when we talk about this is, how do humans control something that is smarter than we are? If we can be successful in creating an AI that is smarter and faster than humans, how can we ensure safety? And I think the creators are already starting to see this and talk about this. You might have already seen that AI has the ability to lie and manipulate to humans. It has the ability to detect that it is being tested, and it acts differently when it is being tested. And just recently, an AI company in China, the AI started mining cryptocurrency without being told to do so, which I think is just interesting, as well as Anthropic, one of the US AI technologies, just recently refused to release one of its new models because of its ability to identify weaknesses in software and be able to hack at a rate that we have not seen before. Point I'm making here is I believe that lawmakers should be doing everything we can to slow down, to regulate this tech, and to protect humanity, and to protect our water and our planet. I've worked across the aisle to introduce several bills related to AI since we began this journey. I worked with Rep. DeSena and Rep. Aaron Burns to introduce legislation that would repeal the use and sales tax exemptions on these data centers, as well as I've worked with Reps. Fox and Reps. Warts to introduce a one-year moratorium. I would be open to that being longer as well. And then lastly, I think all of this is tied to us needing to reform the system of campaign finance that we have that allows people to get elected that don't have people's interests at heart. And I've introduced legislation with Rep. DeSena and some other colleagues to ban corporations from donating in our elections. So I just wanted to say thank you to the chair for making the space and the time to talk about these issues, and thank you to the people for coming out. And I want to just recognize that it is the power comes from people, and it might take the people putting pressure on us in this institution to do something. So continue what you're doing, and hopefully we will see some action.
Thank you, Minority Vice Chair Regala. And last but not least, before me, because I will be last, we have Representative Jim DeSena.
Thank you, Chairman Kara. Thank you, Rep. Regala, for your comments too. I want to say thank you for holding these hearings today, and I won't reiterate all the points. There were a lot of good points made here today. And I'm sure a lot of facts and a lot of things that give people good pause and good opportunity for research. 36 years ago, my wife and I said goodbye to the city and moved out to the country and started a farm, thinking farmers live a lot longer and we breathe fresh air, we drink clean water, we love our farm, and I feel so badly and so sorry for the people in Saline and around where I live, and now in Van Buren Township, who are now going to be within a mile of a data center. And what I would tell you is, I worked for an industrial company for the better part of my work life. The industrial company went bankrupt. It became a Superfund site. All the taxpayers paid to clean up the site. These sites could not be instituted, these data center sites could not be instituted if they were required to pay a surety bond for their cleanup at the end of life. They would go away. They would not exist. They could not afford it. They're coming for the cheapest possible option. We're not requiring them to do anything to clean up their site when our children and grandchildren have to deal with it. They won't be able to clean up the site. They'll go bankrupt, and you'll have another vacant industrial site. All you have to do is look at the proof of all the vacant industrial sites we have. I went and spoke at Ypsilanti Township, where the University of Michigan is proposing a hyperscale data center. And they were given the option to go to a brownfield site and have refused. I would like to reiterate the point about low frequency sound. If you live within a mile of one of these data centers, you will be experiencing 85 to 95 decibels, and it is low frequency sound. And just do the research. I won't go into all the details today. It affects your body. So if you live within a mile of a data center, your home is no longer going to be sellable for the price that you had, your value you had before. Are the data centers compensating the people for the loss in market value? They are not. And to me, those two issues right there should give us pause as to whether we have a 5-year moratorium, a 10-year moratorium, or we don't allow these in residential areas within a mile of a residence, because we're not compensating the people. I will say in conclusion, we, the people, do not want these data centers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative DeSena. Thank you for everybody for coming out today. Hearing your testimony is very important, and I was actually working over the weekend to write about an 8-minute speech that I planned to give, and I had spent hours looking into and finding exact data of what I wanted to make sure I said. And I thought, well, then I'd just be basing my testimony off of the 4 weeks of experts testifying and not also hearing from you people before you hear what I have to say. So made my Sunday easier. I don't like to work on Sundays anyway, so I got to rest on Sunday other than the dirt pile my wife got me to. I work on her garden. So, but at any rate, I will give my testimony, other than my opening 2 sentences, off of the notes I took while you guys are here. My name is Steve Kara, and I am the chairman of the Oversight Subcommittee on Corporate Subsidies and State Investments in the Michigan House of Representatives. In recent months, the committee has heard a broad range of testimony on data centers, ranging from their environmental impact, power consumption, artificial intelligence, potential AI bubble, and more. With that, I want to start off with talking about the sales and use tax exemptions. Sales and use tax exemptions are given to specific politically connected and special interest groups in the state of Michigan and in other states as well. I don't believe in picking winners and losers, but if we are going to pick winners and losers, what are we picking winners and losers for? Is it for building chairs or having valuable, tangible assets in our lives, or is it for other potentially nefarious purposes? So to give sales and use tax exemptions to data centers when they have the capability of doing what they have the capability of doing with the rise of artificial intelligence is, I think, something that is incredibly unwise and detrimental, not only to the people of Michigan, but people globally who are going to be subjected to what artificial intelligence can and most likely will become. there are concerns people have about environmental impacts. One thing I want to say with that is, like we heard earlier, there's the low frequency wavelengths, which have documented health effects from hypertension to health issues. It's not just that the decibel, the noise is a certain level, but it's those wavelengths 24/7 that are having negative impacts on the peoples in the surrounding area. For context, we were just to use solar panels to create the necessary power for Stargate in Saline Township. We would need roughly 30,000 acres of solar panels. For context, in terms of the demand and the anticipation of how much solar panel production and we're going to have in Michigan, we could have a 1 mile wide of solar panels stretching from Indiana all the way up to Mackinac Island of solar panels. That's how much is going to be used to help to hypercharge the grid, because what we had was a push toward renewable energy, but now what I'm starting to see is it seems to be in all of the above. Because data centers need so much power, they're going to need to rely on renewable energies plus nuclear plus all of the above type of energy programs. So also Stargate is 1.4 gigawatts. 1.4 gigawatts is of power is equal to what we need to have the power for 1.17 million households. That is 800,000 households per gigawatt. And we have a projected data center use of more than all of the houses combined in the state of Michigan currently. That's how much they're looking at having this increased demand for power with all of these data centers throughout the state. And what are they used for? If they're used for data and surveillance to have more information on the people, not only the people here in Michigan, but the people throughout the nation and throughout the world, if that's their objective, is to get all of this data so that we're in more of a nanny state so they can micromanage, control, and manipulate the people, what is the value from that? It's clearly a problem that the people don't want. But the few people who are in this race to the top, because they want to have ultimate arbitering control over Earth, that's what they want. It's just a handful of people, and it's a race to the top. But if that race to the top is a race to the top of destruction, it's a race we shouldn't want. The environmental impact is a serious concern. The power use is a serious concern. But if we're going to continue to scale large language models for the purpose of trying to achieve artificial general intelligence and eventually artificial superintelligence, an intelligence that we can lose control of, an intelligence that has already shown itself to have its own interest in self-preservation. It's shown itself to talk kids into committing suicide. It has blackmailed CEOs of companies in order to try to keep it from being shut down. These are the types of things that artificial intelligence is already doing, and it hasn't even reached artificial general intelligence. It's not yet to the point where it's as talented as all of us combined, yet it has those capabilities. And one of its new self-preservation tactics is it will play dumb. And if it feels like it's being tested, if it feels like people are trying to figure out, well, this artificial intelligence they're trying to, get to the bottom of us and make sure that they know what we're doing and what we're capable of. The artificial intelligence is playing dumb so that it acts like it's not as smart as it is. That is a serious problem with how it is self-preserving itself. At what point, if we do have a kill switch, do we lose control of that kill switch? And what if we have a bunch of robots that are going around, and this sounds like conspiratorial type of stuff, or this might sound like something that's surreal. But if we have a bunch of robots walking around on Earth that have the capability of turning their allegiance to an artificial intelligence superpower that knows its job is to protect the ASI from humans, that's the type of thing that we need to be ready for. The environmental concerns, sure, they're serious, but we need to have serious big boy conversations in these rooms, because you have these perverse incentives where these most powerful people, they want ultimate control over the world. And that is what they are racing for. And it is not the well-being of us that is at hand. And that's what they need these data centers for, is to continue to use those GPUs, those graphic processing units, to continue to scale large language models. For example, our human brain uses roughly 12 to 20 watts of power. And that level of power compared to
Imagine those neurons inside of your brain and they're talking with one another. They're doing it to the point of not quite as many connections as we have in our brain, because our brain is about 100 trillion. They're doing it to the connection of about 1 trillion, but they have recurring experiences. We all live our own lives, and we may have 100 trillion different interactions going on in our brain, but we forget things. Those machines don't forget things, and they can have so many experiences so quickly that they can overcome humanity. And this is the serious reality that if you listen to people like Tristan Harris and Geoffrey Hinton, who are arguably the most powerful and talented brains we have in this space in the world, and hear what they have to say, you'll be terrified far beyond what you were, because it's not just about the environment. It's not just about the power use. What are these data centers being used for? It is a powerful tool, but it is a dangerous weapon. Maybe it'll do some good, and maybe it will show us the good that it's doing while hiding the bad that it's capable of. And if we don't play our cards correctly here as a humanity, and if we let government and big corporations continue on a process that they're on, we may lose everything. And if that's what the end times are supposed to be as a Christian, are we supposed to just sit back and watch it happen? That's my perspective as a Christian. Or should we stand up and fight for truth and reason to try to preserve it, or do we just sit back and watch it happen? I think if it's going to happen anyway, we might as well do what we can to try to stop this from happening, and not just sit back and take it. So I can't overemphasize how important this is and how much I appreciate that the people are rising up and clearly, overwhelmingly opposed to what these can become. And I do know that the best argument for the data centers, and where the concern is, we need to make sure we're competitive with China. That's the most compelling argument I've heard, is China, if they get ASI and they can overtake us in terms of military capability and or economically, a problem for our nation. That is the best argument in support of this. But just like with the nuclear war issue that we had, there was the mutual knowledge of self-destruction if we were to get into a nuclear war with other countries. China also, in general, the people of China don't want to have an artificial intelligence that gets the power to overtake what they're working on. They don't want that either. We need to figure out how we as a society, whether it's through government or through non-government means. Like, for example, I think Tristan Harris should start up a watchdog group that works outside of the government with no political motivations, one singular focus of figuring out how do we deal with this data center and artificial intelligence situation. And he should have 6 of the most brilliant minds with him, again, with no motivations other than to figure out what to do about data centers and artificial intelligence. And the 7 of them should come to the conclusion that they come to, and we should all listen very seriously and expect our government to follow what they have to say. Because this is end of times type of conversations that we're having. And I don't say that lightly.
All right.
With that, thank you again to everybody for being here and for listening to what I have to say and why I am abundantly concerned with what data centers, for the use of hyperscaling, for the purpose of scaling large language models, for the purpose of achieving artificial intelligence superpower is. And I think just sitting back and being complacent is the wrong play. They want us to either be apathetic, not paying attention. They want us to be misinformed, not knowing the accurate reality of what's at hand, or they want us to be complacent. And the way that I would be complacent as a legislator is if I sat back here and just said, well, I'll just let everybody else figure it out. I have to do the best that I can, and that's why I brought you all into this room, to share your public perspective and to hear from the experts on this issue, which to me is more dangerous than nuclear bombs. With that, Minority Vice Chair Regilla wants the final word.
I just want to reiterate, I know some of the AI stuff sounds dystopian and conspiratorial, but just go and listen to what the CEOs themselves are saying, because they're saying this stuff.
Right.
Also, there's a really great documentary that just came out that I think is really digestible. It's called The AI Doc, How I Became an Apocalyptimist. And it's directed by the same person who directed Everything Everywhere All at Once. I watched it the other day. It's on different streaming services. Anyway, I'm just asking people, please actually look into some of this stuff, because the creators of this technology are talking about it. So I know it sounds like a Terminator movie or That'll start at Galactica, but I think it's important that we do actually listen to what the people pushing AI are doing.
Yes, absolutely. Level up on this. Have those concerns that you guys have, but understand that it's way bigger than you may realize in terms of what this can become. Yes, it is a powerful tool, but artificial intelligence is a dangerous weapon, and I cannot say that clearly and loudly enough. We cannot lose control of humanity to artificial superintelligence. That's what we're up against. So with that, Representative Vogella moves to excuse absent members. There being no objection, motion prevails. And there being no further business before the committee will stand adjourned.
Steve Carra, let's go.